Alright, we are recording for chapter 19 of Attack of the Clones. And want to read some here. Uh, so this is Boba and Jango talking right at the beginning. You smashed him up good. He never had a chance against you, Dad. Jango smiled and nodded. To tell the truth, son, he had me in real trouble there. After he dodged that explosive pack, I'd about run out of tricks. Boba found at first wanting to argue against anyone ever getting the upper hand on his father, but then as he considered the moment Jango had mentioned, his frown became a wide smile. I got him good with the laser cannon. You did great, Jango replied. You fired at just the right time, and you were right there ready to help me in when it was time for us to go. You're learning well, Boba. Better than I ever believed possible. That's because I'm a little you, the boy reasoned, but Jango was shaking his head. You're better than I was at your age, and by a long way. And if you keep working hard, you'll be the best bounty hunter this galaxy's ever seen. It was the contraction there that messed with my tongue a little bit. Anyway, which was your plan from the beginning with the Kaminoans? Right, Dad? That's why you wanted me? Jango moved over and lifted one hand to tousle Boba's hair. That and a lot of other reasons, he said quietly, reverently. And in every regard, in every hope and dream, you've done better than I ever expected. There was nothing that anyone in the galaxy could ever have said to young Boba Fett to make him feel better than those words from his father. I really, really am liking the Boba Fett, Jango Fett interactions. They really do seem like a good and healthy relationship here. I mean, yes, Jango Fett is a bounty hunter who will kill mercilessly, and Boba Fett will become one. But still, when he's a dad, he very much seems a loving father to him. And this also sets something up well, something was set up in the previous chapter I forgot to mention that's actually kind of neat. Boba, he wants to impress his dad. Makes perfect sense. So one thing that he wants to do is to pilot Slave One, their ship. Jango initially said, Jango admonished him a little bit when getting on there that no, because Boba was like, I'll put us right into hyperspace, and Jango was like, no, you won't. But it's also like, we need to have the computer do the calculations kind of thing, so it's like Boba understood. But Jango did set up to drop out of hyperspace early to give Boba time, so he actually is piloting Slave One on their approach to Geonosis. Now, this is a good setup. Both it is the whole father-son dynamic there, but it's also that gives time for Obi-Wan to catch up, because now it's not like they are dropping out right at Geonosis and being able to land by the time Obi-Wan finds out where to go. No, he actually is able to see, they're at Geonosis, and then beat them there even, because it's actually kind of hard because they make it sound like the transmitter that Obi-Wan had gotten onto the Slave One is causing an echo to appear for them, so that alerts them. But it could also have been like he did get there ahead of them and then came back. I'm not sure. But in any case, it's that is how it makes sense now how Obi-Wan was able to catch up while they were still in space. Yeah. This is one thing that does annoy me. He turned his attention to the scan screens, Jango, showing the composition of the asteroid field nearby and some distant traffic around the other side of the planet. No, that's actually something that seems pretty true a lot of the time granted, it's not all science fiction. Star Wars is science fantasy. But still, generally speaking, planets block your ability to scan anything on the other side. Yeah. I'm thinking, in Wrath of Khan, you do have, it's a planetoid, it's a smaller body, that it seems the Enterprise is tracking the Reliant on the other side of, but it is also possible that it knows the Reliant is over there, is in a similar orbit, going faster, and that's just a model versus no, we're actually detecting them there. All right. A bit further. Okay. So this is after the space fight between the two, and Jango Fett and Boba Fett believe that they've killed Obi-Wan. They haven't, but they go down. Obi-Wan is thinking now is about to go after them, but oh no, he is going after them. Following the path taken by Slave One, Obi-Wan was not surprised that it led straight for the red planet Geonosis. Apparently, Obi-Wan is an idiot. They're orbiting the planet. It's not even suggested that there are other planets in the system. So, what is the other option here? That there's just stopping here? That they're gonna eat at Al's Space Diner and then go on? I mean, it's like, what are you talking about? We've never seen that except when a ship is damaged, that they don't just go directly where they mean to go. Obviously, you dropped out of hyperspace here. They mean to be at Geonosis. I would like to. I have one note that is on Tatooine, but the last note I have is potentially rant triggering. So yeah, let's just get to the other one, which is so Padme's at the homestead, and we do also have Anakin chasing after, but she can't sleep. She's worried, so she goes walking, ends up in the garage, and encounters 3PO there. And he's like, "You can't sleep?" And they talk a little bit, and one thing, actually I don't remember exactly how it is brought up, but, well, here, you know what, it's not far from the end. I'll just try to read it. Okay, maybe it's a little bit further than, okay. Wait, no, he can take care of himself, even in this awful place. This is 3PO trying to comfort her. Awful, Padme asked. You're not happy here? C-3PO stepped back and held his hands out wide, showing his battered coverings and the chipped insulation in those areas where some of his wiring showed. Padme moved forward, bending to see and noticed sand clinging in many of the droid's joints. Well, this is a very harsh environment, I'm afraid, the droid explained, and when Master Annie made me, he never quite found the time to give me any outer coverings. Mr. Schmid did well in finishing me, but even with the coverings, the wind and sand are quite harsh. It gets in under my coverings, and it's quite itchy. It's actually kind of funny, even she laughs a little bit, but she then gives him an oil bath. But it's just, I know that some people make fun of the line. I can understand it's delivered kind of whiny, but Anakin in the movie complaining about the sand and how he hates it, it gets everywhere and all that. And it's like, well, here's 3PO also saying it. More or less, it's the same thing. Now, we could just say, well, that's the creation being like the maker. Or it is a legitimate point. And it also does make some sense as far as, like, for Anakin, excuse me, he always wanted off of Tatooine, right? Always wanted to explore. So the sand is such a representation then of Tatooine because it's everywhere, and it does get everywhere. So it is a constant reminder of Tatooine, and it is something that can beat on you, can scar you even. Certainly 3PO. 3PO, Anakin might be more metaphorical in his hatred of sand. 3PO is more practical here because he's a droid. But it is still a... Now I kind of don't feel so good when I see some of the stuff, because it is used as a meme. Not terribly often, but it is sometimes used as a meme in a mocking way. This whole, I hate sand stuff. And it's like, well, no, it actually does make some sense. And I do think that if not for this, not for 3PO's comment here, I would be more inclined to still be comfortable with those mocking memes. But it's like, maybe you can argue that the line was overacted at the moment. I don't know. I don't remember the movie that well. It's been too long. like 2 or 3 years since I last watched it. And I've not... Phantom Menace sticks in my mind. Attack of the Clones doesn't as well. Revenge of the Sith doesn't really stand out in my mind as well either. It probably helps Phantom Menace I enjoy more. Of the three, it's my favorite movie. The book was not that impressive. Anyhow. But yeah, it still is... I find that interesting there, and I think worth talking about, obviously. But there's also an element that, for Padme, which you'd think the sand may make her uncomfortable, but it still is, from her point of view, sand goes away. Because she's from Naboo, which is beautiful and not sand-covered. So her learning it, and it really is just her laughing there somewhat. So it's not like connecting to her, but there is an element there that occurred to me that she doesn't understand how abrasive it is physically and like emotionally. So, because she's not, it's not all encompassing to her life. All right, now this last point. Okay. So this is Dooku talking with the various people that are on Geonosis, who are going to help. They include 3 opposition senators, representatives from Geonosis, from the Trade Federation, the Commerce Guild, the Intergalactic Banking Clan, which, by the way, it would be intragalactic. To my knowledge, there's nothing in the movie canon, at least, of Star Wars, the Star Wars stuff ever reaching outside the galaxy. So it'd be intra, not intergalactic. But it's just a name. It's a brand name. So, but it is technically incorrect. Okay, so he's talking. As I explained to you earlier, I'm quite convinced that 10,000 more systems will rally to our cause with your support, the Count said. Yeah, he's just talking generally. And let me remind you of our absolute commitment to capitalism, to lower the taxes, the reduced tariffs, and the eventual abolition of all trade barriers. Signing this treaty will bring you profits beyond your wildest imagination. What we are proposing is complete free trade. He looked to Newt Gunray, who nodded, so the Viceroy. Really? This is how he's swaying them? This isn't impressive. I mean, and it's also like, you really making capitalism evil here? Or are you saying complete free trade is evil? This is some common gobbledygook, I think is what they say. It doesn't make much sense. I mean, or is this how you're just swaying this group that are all trade organizations, but is also, they are cultures. They are civilizations on their own. They would have other needs and desires here. And what would bring any of the planets into this? I mean, the Trade Federation, okay, that makes sense. Commerce Guild, okay, that makes sense. At least by their names, it makes sense. As I said, they should be complete cultures on their own as well. So this actually doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's still, let's just say that they are as incredibly shallow as just their names. That's it. Why are there senators from Ando, Cymirth, and Quarren? Why are they interested? Like, we have the 3 senators named here, but why would they be interested? Do they really want capitalism that much? Well, this version of it, at least, it's like, what's preventing you from just doing that? See, this is another thing that I really, really do not understand with some of this. Is like, if they've already separated, they can just do this. Then it's not I'm promising this. I mean, in fact, is that what he even said? Let me check on this. Yeah, and let me remind you of our absolute commitment to capitalism, as though it's not yet achieved. It's like, if they're already grouped here that they can just do it. I mean, it's not that I'm a great historian on the Civil War, but it still is. When the Confederacy seceded, it had its own laws then. It would just do what it wanted within its borders. Now, obviously, the Union was against that and fought and all that, but it still is, as far as the Confederacy was concerned, they were their own nation. They could just do it. The Separatists are their own government now, their own group. They can just do it. Why is this like our commitment to it? It's like, you could just do it. It really, really is shallow. This whole situation is so shallow, and it pains me. Because it is just, what would happen if somebody, if like the editor for this was like, so it's just the free trade stuff? Yeah. Why don't they just have that? What do you mean? It's like, well, what's stopping the Trade Federation and the Commerce Guild from having free trade completely between them? Well, the Republic is... No. Isn't that between them? I'm saying, couldn't they just say, no, we're not going to pay the taxes. We're just doing this between ourselves. What's the Republic going to do? Censure them. That's a hard one with my speech impediment. So I will often get that one wrong. But it's like, is that what you're saying is going to happen? I mean, you could just have, like civil disobedience here kind of stuff. And it's also, okay, you're going to censure us. Well, why don't we just shut down all trade with you then? I mean, this is something really achievable without a civil war situation here. There has to be more to it, but it seems like we're just ignoring all that. And it's also the whole, as I said, we're talking about complete cultures here that have separated from the Republic to do this stuff. It's not just about their economies. Okay, and even then, it's not just about their economies. Technically, economy would include things such as artistry, because you do buy and sell art. You do have that, and you do have artists creating things not just for its beauty, but for payment. So it is like we're ignoring that there is all this other depth here that would have to exist. We're just ignoring all that to say, nah, they just want... And it's also, we don't actually know how the Republic is against this. I mean, yes, there is a tax. We are aware of that. Because it was stated in The Phantom Menace. Is that tax really it? Is that tax really what led to all this? And it's also, don't forget the whole Trade Federation that has an army was defeated by Naboo that didn't. It's really dumb. At least for what we're being shown so far. We may get more. And even Obi-Wan is like with seeing this. Even he's like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but at least I'm learning a lot more. Does also point out the whole, this is a big army that they have. Which is, again, the whole Padme is a freaking idiot. Oh, so many of these people are just idiots. I'm just... One of my criticisms for The Empire Strikes Back was how it seemed like everyone in it was stupid, except for the crew of the Avenger. But otherwise, everyone was stupid. They weren't acting as though they had reasonable motivations to do things. They were acting as though this is what the author wanted them to do. This wasn't quite feeling like that, and in some ways it still isn't. But it's more like the conspiracy is like that. The characters aren't necessarily, but the conspiracy, which does then connect with some of the characters, it is so shallow that it's like, nah, it's just what we want it to be. Why? It doesn't make sense. Well, it's what I want it to be. It's like, that's not quite good enough. I mean, it is, but it's also one of those things where it's like, all right, fine, that's what you wanted to be. You're stupid. Why would I read this? I I mean, legitimately, it does kind of make me. It does kind of make me think. I'm not sure. As far as recommending the book, that just to be clear, that's my context at the moment. It's like the original trilogy novelizations. I would say A New Hope. Go ahead and read it. It's basically a how you'd expect a hero's journey story to go. So it's like, yeah, it's got some issues to it, but nothing too bad. And as I said back then, it was like somebody's first novel. That's okay. Empire Strikes Back, not so good. I wouldn't recommend somebody read that. But it is if you want to learn more about the background and you don't mind overlooking the stupidity in there, go ahead and read it. Return of the Jedi is actually good, especially the final third of it is fantastic. Very, very good writing there. I'm really happy with that. So I would recommend people read that. Phantom Menace, I probably wouldn't recommend somebody read except for the technical experience of reading it. As far as just like you reading it somewhat dispassionately, because it's not. I don't think it's a very well told story, but there are things that you can learn there, insights that you can gain that the movies don't give you, or just the way things are told a little differently. I like, for example, the Duel of the Fates stuff, the Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul. I think in the book is actually a lot more interesting. This, thus far, I am kind of putting it in a similar category to Phantom Menace. I think I'd still say it's better than the Phantom Menace, but the different healthy family relationships, you're seeing it, how Anakin doesn't really have that. It is, there are definitely a lot of things in this that I do like, but there are also some things where it's like, yeah, it's kind of shallow, so you might need to read it in a dispassionate manner. Because if you get really passionate, if you get really involved with it, you'll potentially realize, yeah, this is dumb. All right. Okay, it looks like the next chapter is short, but I might try doing this one tonight as well. Actually, yeah, I can. I should be able to. But it looks like it's gonna be mainly Tatooine, with Anakin finally rescuing Shmi. Well, sort of. So yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm not sure how much ranting there will be, because it is like some of the when it is action scenes. There tends not to be much to criticize there. It's just like general. Did it like it? Did it not like it? That's all. And like the space fight. I want to say fight because it's only the two ships, Slave One and Obi-Wan. It's nice, but I mean, it's not. It's a little different from the movie. It's not that different, and it's well done, but it's not like it's so cool. It's well done. It's well done. All right. I don't think this needs to be longer than it is. So yeah. See you next time.